Good morning, this is your TTT News Update. I'm Carrie Roberts. Making the news at this time. Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar has warned that her government cannot support CARICOM's push for full and free movement at this time, noting the severe strain caused by tens of thousands of illegal immigrants. Speaking at CARICOM's 50th Heads of Government meeting in St. Kitts and Nevis, she said TNT's public services, finances, and national security remain under unprecedented pressure. She stressed that Trinidad and Tobago supports the principle of free movement, but the reality on the ground demands caution.
Committed to full and free movement. I know several CARICOM islands are moving forward with that. But in Trinidad and Tobago, again, illegal migration is a big problem. It has been left to flourish not just in TNT but elsewhere. Currently, Trinbagonian taxpayers, we pay the bills for the tens of thousands of illegal migrants who have come into our country. It has put an enormous strain on our health services, government services, financial resources, and we are working diligently to resolve this illegal immigration crisis that we have. Again,
she reinforced that Trinidad and Tobago is not rejecting free movement permanently, but cannot approve it while illegal migration remains uncontrolled.
Venezuela is just 7 miles away from us, and we're going through right now to try to identify and do a registration exercise because there are thousands of them who are a drain on the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago. So at this time, I will say the greatest respect, Prime Minister Drew, Trinidad and Tobago, we are fully committed in principle to the full and free movement, but we have to deal with the thousands of illegal ones I already have in my country. So I will say, not at this time, but we agree in principle to full and free movement.
Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation, Eliza Kur, has confirmed that the Blue Wave Harmony is in the final stages of its sea trials, with completion anticipated by the end of February 2026, subject to the successful conclusion of all required safety and operational inspections. Responding to a question on behalf of the acting Prime Minister and Minister of Works and Infrastructure, Jerlene John, in the Senate on Tuesday, the minister confirmed that a regularized sailing program, including the Blue Wave Harmony, will be published on Friday.
25th, 2026, as part of the final evaluation stage, after which a vessel is expected to transition into full commercial and passenger operations. A regularized sailing program is being prepared, and consistent with established practice, the schedule will be published this Friday, providing at least 1 week of confirmed sailings at a time.
Meanwhile, Acting Prime Minister and Minister of Works and Infrastructure, Jerlene John, made a final check of the Blue Wave Harmony again on Monday night before it departed for Tobago. The minister reaffirmed her commitment to collaborate with stakeholders to ensure reliable and efficient seabridge service.
All right, the sand is going, the bricks are going, gravel going, right? Everything is going. All right, Tobago business is good business. All right, so these people opening their mouth and bringing their stuff. If there's a shortage, it means that it needs more suppliers in Tobago.
The MV Blue Wave Harmony docked at the port of Scarborough, Tobago, on schedule at approximately 7:10 on Tuesday morning. And now on to some sport. West Indies women are looking to bounce back from two close defeats when they take on Sri Lanka in the third and final CG United One-Day International at the National Cricket Stadium in Grenada. Veteran all-rounder Stephanie Taylor says the team's batting has been the main area of concern heading into the series finale. She points out that while batters have been getting starts, they have not been able to see the innings through, something the coaching staff has been emphasizing, particularly for the top five.
I think more in the batting. We had starts from batters, just never really get to finish the game. And I know coach always say, like, once you get a start, especially the top five batters, if you do get a start, you try and, finish the game.
And that's what's making the news this morning. But joining us right now is the host of Trinidad and Tobago Today, Virmala Balkaran. Good morning, my good friend Virmala.
Hey, Carrie. Morning. How are you today? I'm
good today. I had a little bit of an adventure yesterday, and another one planned for today too.
Yeah, I saw that, and I really don't know how you do it. And you have so much energy as well.
I mean, like, it's a fun part of the job.
I think you're powered by the greasy pies.
Well, I haven't had the greasy pies in a little bit, to be honest, but
Maybe that's where the energy is coming from, the lack of greasy pies. Well, Carrie, just some really sad news in the wildlife area. I don't know if you saw the story, but an ocelot was actually shot in the forested area.
That.
Yeah,
very upsetting.
And that is extremely, extremely heartbreaking. And I believe, and I was looking at the report, and I saw the vet was saying that he was probably shot by a 9mm. So it doesn't seem like it was by any hunter or for any hunting
shell
reason.
Or anything like that. The thing is, first of all, the animal is endangered. Shouldn't be hunting it or shooting it in any case. And the next thing is that, okay, so you're not a hunter. You have a 9mm weapon, using it on an endangered animal. What are you doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully we can find whoever's the culprit. Did you know that the violations involving the protected species, the fine is, I think, $100,000 and up to 2 years imprisonment. So that's definitely something.
Up to 100,000 and 2 years in prison or more.
Exactly, and
because
I think we need to remember that our forests are home to species and they must be safeguarded. So that's really sad news this morning, but hopefully we're gonna change that someday.
Well, yeah, one day at a time, and when all of us come together to address the issue.
Well, Carrie, early on in the newscast, you spoke about that address by Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar. Today, we'll be unpacking a lot of those themes and much more inside Trinidad and Tobago today.
All right, I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
All right, thank you, Virmala. When we come back, the Trinidad and Tobago Today morning show gets going after this break.
In a world filled with uncertainty, there is still hope. When the weight feels heavy and the night feels long, remember, your story isn't over. God's promises are still true, His love is still strong, and your breakthrough is still coming. Join us for Messages of Hope, Words of Encouragement with Pastor Jesse, presented by Youth Fires. Hope lives here, only on TTT.
Son, you need to do a better job looking after your bride.
800,000 women on this island. And you had to choose the one with the biggest rock on her finger.
Anita, I'm thinking about you whole day.
In what world can you and I ever be together?
I don't think you understand what you're doing. You don't have to marry Barrett.
You want me to fail, Papa?
No. Go and do something for yourself now.
This is my last chance. Tonight is about us.
A new season equals new dreams, and many football fans are dreaming of their team actually winning this season. But the reality is that only one team can win. So many will just be dreaming and wishing and hoping that their team can deliver. Manchester City, Liverpool, Chelsea. Notice I have not mentioned Arsenal. Don't be upset, I'm not mentioning Man U either. This is Atto Bolden inviting all of you to follow the 12th man as they celebrate a new season on TTT and enjoy the ride.
Wednesday, 25th February 2026. The time now, it is 6:10 a.m. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago and the world. I'm Virmala Balkaran, and welcome to Trinidad and Tobago Today. Well, let's take a look at what's trending this morning. Yesterday, at the 50th CARICOM Heads of Government meeting, Prime Minister Kamla Prasad-Bisesa delivered a speech that really broke away from the usual tone of that careful diplomacy and polite regional language that we're used to. So she openly questioned whether CARICOM is responding strongly enough to the serious challenges facing its member states today. And while acknowledging that the organization has made, well, some progress over the years in areas like trade and regional cooperation, she actually pointed out that major problems still persist, including heavy food import bills, rising crime, drug trafficking, of course, illegal migration, something we are grappling with, and economic instability. She also placed particular emphasis on Trinidad and Tobago's unique position, located just about 7 miles from Venezuela, she said, and the security pressures that come with that proximity. And in doing so, she defended the country's right to determine its own foreign and security policies, including working with international partners to combat narco-terrorism and transnational crime. But at the same time, the Prime Minister reaffirmed TNT's commitment to regional unity, but stressed that unity must be backed by action, especially when the member states face threats. Her central argument was really that CARICOM must move beyond declarations and really confront urgent regional crises with practical, decisive measures. It is safe to say that her address certainly challenged the status quo and pushed for a more assertive and realistic approach to regional leadership. Well, if you did not catch that address, here's some of it for you now.
So how could the CARICOM be a zone of peace when a narco-dictator who imprisoned and killed thousands of civilians and opposition members, you will see recently over 300 persons from the opposition in Venezuela have been released. They were in prison because of politics. So how can it be when that regime was threatening violence to 2 CARICOM member states, there was no voice from the CARICOM? We were talking about a zone of peace. And in my respectful view, my country is not a zone of peace, and I'll tell you why. Because of the unreliability of the CARICOM in the above situation, TNT Guyana, we cannot bind ourselves to the same political ideologies, the same foreign issues, and the same security policies of the entire CARICOM. That's why I welcome Prime Minister all those words, that we have each our own pathway to walk, depending on what is happening in our country. And so, my friends, I say, going forward, we will work with the CARICOM. We were invested in the CARICOM. We've been there from day one, and we want to be there after the end and the beginning. And in the end, we want to be there with the CARICOM. It's very vital.
Well, Prime Minister Kamla Prasad-Bisesa really did deliver a wide-ranging address at this meeting. And as we spoke about before, her remarks touched on regional unity, sovereignty, national security, democratic principles, of course, migration, as I said, at the start, and Trinidad and Tobago's evolving role within CARICOM. So this morning, we're going to unpack the key themes and what they really mean for the region with political analyst Dr. Shane Mohammed. Joining us via Zoom this morning, Dr. Mohammed, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you so very much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. As we spoke off air, I know it was a late night for you catching up with this address, and of course, dissecting all of it so that we can have this conversation this morning. So we really appreciate taking the time so that we can do this. So first things first, Dr. Mohammed, how would you characterize the overall tone and direction of the Prime Minister's address within the CARICOM context? I know it was a very different tone. I know she really broke it down. It was very relatable. So what would you say about that?
The thing about it is I find it quite intriguing. That's my word that I'm using to find. I find it very intriguing because there are several significant things about the CARICOM meeting that is taking place now, and the Prime Minister did not fail to also to mention and speak about the significance of those things from a CARICOM Caribbean perspective, which would have been that this is the first time in our history of CARICOM that there are actually 3 female leaders that are sitting at the table. And that's very significant because it speaks to the development of political leadership for women and where would the women in leadership perspective is for the region, right? And it's very significant that you're standing next to one of them. And so that's one. She also spoke about the importance about Tobago being present, physically present, and represented in the CARICOM heads of government with the presence of the chief secretary. And I want to say that, when you're speaking about autonomy in a political science perspective, and when you're teaching about autonomy and what it looks like for, or may look like for Trinidad and Tobago, St. Kitts and Nevis is one of those case studies that you want to go to because there's a framework, a legislative framework, and a constitutional arrangement that allows for St. Kitts and Nevis to exist as one nation, but also for them to be able to conduct their business in a way that they're both contributing to the national economy of both islands. So that's very significant. In terms of the discussion and the tone, sometimes you need to call it out as it is. And as I had to say in another forum last night, and people asking for comments, I note that the opposition is not happy and that, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Brown, and the current opposition leader are upset because they feel that it was not the space, the time, the tone was not right. But here's the thing. They can say that because here's where the tables have turned. The opposition leader is campaigning for, has just started, I should say, her campaign for the prime ministerial space and office. The difference is Mrs. Prasad Bisesa has finished her campaign and she has found the space. She's on the stage, on the right forum. She's got the mic. She has to say what she needs to say. And what she's saying is that, and I take very the very specific part of the speech that stands out is we can all work together as one Caribbean community in the interest of all of our people, where it unites us collectively, but there are issues that are facing each Caribbean nation and groups of Caribbean nations that face different issues. So, for example, we can differ in our foreign policy and in our national security policies because those are critical and very specific to the conditionalities and the context that each state faces. So in that regard, that while we are collective and we're seeking each other's interest as a collective, there are also going to be that thin line between collectivity and sovereignty where we have to work towards achieving the individual goals of each nation when it comes to foreign policy and national security. And she's right. We need to say it. We need to say what it is. There's also that concern that she raised with regard to the need for CARICOM to become more accountable, more agile. And she went back to that specific letter of correspondence that she would have written to the SG, the Secretary General of CARICOM, and gotten absolutely no response, which is not what CARICOM is. At the end of the day, it's not, and she's right as well, because history shows that people don't want to do their history, but there was something that exists on the CARICOM website that speaks to the Assembly of Caribbean Community Parliamentarians, which was started way back in 1987 and had several meetings in the aftermath of 1987, and which was piloted by Trinidad and Tobago's the Trinidad and Tobagonian Secretary General Edward Carrington, which allowed for parliamentarians of all kinds, similar to the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association meetings that happen across the world. It allowed for members of parliament from all sides of the aisle to come together to have conversations, and that has gone defunct. So, very relevant, very important, and it's about time. I've been talking about, and I've been teaching about CARICOM and single market economy and the Caribbean affairs at the political science level for years. And one of the things I've been saying is that we need to reform ourselves in order to get with the program and reach to the space where we are mature, we are understanding the conditionalities and context by which we live, which is, yes, we are all binded by the Caribbean Sea and we are all within the same geographic area. But that locality is also specific to the islands where they are in terms of longitude and latitude and what their specific issues are across the board. And therefore, we need to address that and we need to understand that reality.
Yeah, Dr. Mohammed, she actually said, this phrase stands out for me. We are not red, not yellow, not blue, not green. We are all CARICOM. She has also reaffirmed Trinidad and Tobago's commitment to CARICOM. What message do you think she was sending in all of that?
Well, I don't think many people know that when it comes to Trinidad and Tobago, we are the number one and the largest contributor to the budget of the CARICOM budget annually. That's a status that has been, and that is a responsibility that has been given to Trinidad and Tobago. And that has never been adjusted, that has never been argued, that has never been debated. That's just how it is. And that's a commitment in itself. Having that responsibility and demonstrating that level of responsibility and commitment says that we could all exist and coexist. And the other significant part of it is that she said everybody in this room has been in opposition before. What the issue here is not because we are in opposition or have been in opposition, we'll go back in opposition, because that's the cycle of politics. No one stays in power forever, right? There's going to come a day, it may be 30, 40, 20 years, 5 years, as the case may be. It's going to come a day where you will be removed from the heads of government table and you'll be sitting on the opposition side of things. But not because you are, and because the region is so small, we should be unique and smart and mature enough to understand that you don't lock off the opposition side of the small CARICOM community, because they also have a say. And I think that is why she was making reference to that part of it, because of the Assembly of Caribbean Parliamentarians, which existed and was formed as part of overall, let's get together, seek Caribbean unity, speak to each other, discuss the issues that are affecting all of us. So maybe we can look forward to that as an aspect of CARICOM re-emerging. But the time has come for CARICOM as an institution to sit down and look at itself and make the reforms that is needed to meet the international challenges that we're facing in 2026 and beyond.
Dr. Mohammed, she actually said that, how can we speak of a zone of peace? We're not a zone of peace as well. I just want to move now to security challenges that we've been facing in Trinidad and Tobago. And she outlined some of those, and I have to give her kudos for that. She was very open about it. Sometimes you find leaders might want to shy away from saying exactly what's happening in their countries. And she was really bold about it, and she was open. How central is security cooperation to CARICOM's future, especially for Trinidad and Tobago as well?
Well, the CARICOM impacts is very important because that's part of the security apparatus for monitoring and evaluating and reading in with regard to information that is critical to the region's security. But there's also the Caribbean initiative, security initiative, where we are partnering with the United States, and the United States has that assignment with regard to, because all of CARICOM borders the southern part of the United States borders, the Caribbean Basin Initiative is part of that that regional security apparatus and basis. So people who talk about the presence of the United States in the region, and they may have been silently part of that apparatus and silently part of that observation and that intelligence gathering and observing. That does not mean that at some point in time, if conditions and conditionalities and contexts arise where they need to be more present and they need to have an active role in that regional security and individual security arrangement between islands or the overall CARICOM, that they won't step in. So it's very significant, and she's very right. Jamaica has had for years national security issues because they are fighting crime and also having to advertise and work towards building a robust tourism industry. Look at Haiti. She made very good reference to Haiti. We are not talking about, I have an uncle who lives in the northern Leeward Islands, and he will tell you that drug trafficking is something that some people may want to turn a blind eye to because it suits their tourism agenda and building and contributes the foreign exchange involved there and the movement of people and tourists and yachts and etc. They contribute to their economic well-being. But the bottom line is those things may not be also contributing to gang violence and the emergence of gang violence. But there's also something in political science that we talk about and we teach about at the university level, which is transnational organized crime, which is an inhibitor, and it has destroyed sociological frameworks. And we can't afford to allow transnational organized crime to become further institutionalized in Trinidad and Tobago, because we know, and there is evidence to show, that transnational organized crime leads to gang institutionalization. It includes the movement of guns and ammunition, drugs, as well as people. And as such, we have to take into consideration the reality is, because Trinidad and Tobago is so close to Venezuela and to South America, that movement of drugs is a very coordinated and very well established thing that gets people moving into at the wee hours while a nation sleeps. Drugs is moving. A whole different system is occurring. A whole that level of activities are happening, and therefore sometimes I've said this over and over the years, we've gotten up to news about drugs from Trinidad is in Spain, drugs from Trinidad is in Miami, drugs is on Monas Island. How is that possible? It is because that also speaks to the safety and security of our people, and from a different perspective. So she has to talk about it. She has to individualize it, not because we are binded by the Caribbean Sea, it means that we cannot bring to the table to discuss, when it comes to foreign policy, my economics is very different to your economics. And as such, I need to go after the things that is going to help me grow, develop, ensure employment, ensure prosperity, ensure infrastructural development, and ensure that there's a level of resilience and sustainability for my economic purposes and my economic agenda. The same applies to Venezuela, to Jamaica, to Guyana, especially as it pertains to Venezuela. And then the huge sore point of this entire thing, and I'm glad she raised it, is that look at what had happened to Haiti. Haiti had been devastated by the earthquake. Then they had political insecurity. Then they had some level of stability. They were going in the right direction. And then there was a major networked assassination of its president that came from within. And from then to now, Haiti has been a complete quote-unquote eyesore because nobody knew, and people are still trying to figure out how and what do we do in order to maintain and to restore order, remove the gang violence, get rid of the gang control that is happening in Haiti, and establish a system where there's growth, development, stability, etc. And that's why she was very much saying that if we can't do it as small island developing states because we're all catching our royal nenen to fix our own business, then why are we not asking our big brothers and our neighbors? And so she called out and said she's willing to partner with the United States and Panama on this matter. And where needed, she will send the resources. We need to take the bull by the horn, and we need to stop behaving like ostriches and try to hide from what the realities are, because they're not going to go away. In fact, they will become institutionalized wounds, and we will never recover from it.
Dr. Mohammed, she actually, in speaking about that, she spoke about international cooperation with the United States. Let's take in a little bit of that now.
I come to the USA and the cooperation that we had with the USA. Thanks to President Trump, thanks to Secretary Rubio and the U.S. military. I say thank you today for standing firm against narco-trafficking, human and arms smuggling originated from Venezuela. That is what we were facing in Trinidad and Tobago. Maybe some of you other islands in the Caribbean, your nations do not have that level of illegal migration and, of course, the crime. So in 2024, crime was being treated as a public health gimmick. It was dubbed a public health issue. It's not a public health issue. Because of the crime, you're not alive to get any public health. You're dead. That's what the crime is like. So don't talk to me about a zone of peace when I will tell you, Trinidad and Tobago, 1.4 million people. We recorded 623 murders in 1 year, in 2024. And 40% of those murders, they were gang-related, driven by narcotics, by firearms smuggled in from Venezuela, and gangs coming out of Venezuela and mingling and mixing with gangs in Trinidad. In 2025, change of government, change of policy to treat with the drug cartels and the gangs as violent terrorist organizations. The military action by the American military in the Caribbean caused, you know what happened in our country? Caused our murder rate to decrease by 42%. You know what that meant? There were 257 less murders in TNT. I can say thanks again to President Trump. And thanks again to Secretary Rubio, Marco Rubio. I thank them and the U.S. military for the cooperation and what they shared with us for national security matters.
Well, Dr. Mohammed, do you think that this approach, linking with the United States, that security cooperation with the U.S., can this influence how other Caribbean nations possibly approach or address transnational crime?
If it suits their agenda, Virmala, if it suits the agenda, because again, context and conditionalities, it may very well be that persons are benefiting, economies are benefiting from certain activities that it's easier and it's better to turn a blind eye to than to face it directly the way Trinidad and Tobago has to address it, because transnational organized crime in some instances lead to, as I said, gang violence, serious crimes, high levels of criminality, kidnapping, rape, etc., etc. And because of where we are located, we have to be mindful that she called it out. What was also significant for me is that she said that there was a presence of elements of gangs from Venezuela that had infiltrated Trinidad and Tobago as part of that movement of persons and that issue that she's dealing as with regard to freedom of movement of people. We, as a government, Trinidad and Tobago, as a people, we are now dealing with trying to institute a system that is accountable for those who have been here over the years illegally, who have gotten here just the other day, who is just enjoying life in Trinidad. Yes, we understand. I did this study. I'll say it again. I am one of few academics that went into Venezuela, did this study, presented the paper in Peru in 2018, and discovered the social, economic, and political crippling of a very prosperous nation and the fleeing of its citizens from the aggression of Nicolas Maduro. Between 2018 to now is a very long time, and therefore the Prime Minister of the past had the opportunity to put a framework and infrastructure. And there were people like me who were saying, you have to put a robust infrastructure in place because other nations close in and sharing the same language and culture of Venezuela, like Panama and Brazil and Colombia and Ecuador and Bolivia, all had to institute structures and frameworks that started to restrict the movement of people because it had become overwhelming and they had to see it for dollars and cents and from an economic perspective. Unfortunately, Trinidad didn't do it the way it ought to have been in a proper, long-term, sustainable, accountable framework. And that is something that the current government has to do. And eventually it was going to happen that there was going to be something that would have break the camel's back, that would have led to a change, and that whoever coming in would have had a difficult time because there are going to be difficult decisions to be made. And I'm very happy that she's talking about it because she's also saying, if it suits you and it works for you, you go ahead. But it does not work and suit me, and therefore I need, as a Prime Minister of my country, I also need to do what needs to be done. And while I support the free movement of people, again, sociological structure, cultural aspects, homogeneity of the society, that closeness in terms of location will allow for free movement of people for some of the islands. But Trinidad and Tobago is not the only one who's saying, hold on, not yet. We're not saying no. It looks good on paper. We have a system where skilled workers and professionals can move, right? And that is a system we want to maintain right now because there is a level of movement going on through CSME. But right now, I have a problem that I need to deal with, which is regulating and ensuring that the movement of illegal migrants, I can account for it. I can know what they're doing, where they are, whether they're contributing, whether they're not contributing. Are they just sponging off of my people and our economics? Those are real issues. And if people feel that it's more comfortable and more acceptable to bury your head in the sand or take up the carpet and sweep the issues underneath it and do not address it, it will fester. And it's not going to run away, it may rot. And I think we have to take into consideration anybody in Trinidad and Tobago who voted and expect across the board now that there's ever going to be a regime change, whether it be in St. Lucia, in St. Vincent, in the United States, in Canada, in India, in Australia, wherever. When there's good policy, things are going to remain and there's going to be continuity. But when governments change and where there's bad policy, there's also going to be a change and a difference in how things are done. And we have to accept that and we have to understand it. What I'm having a difficulty with last night and even into this morning and probably in the coming days where there are people who are blowing this thing out of proportion and trying to make it look like an embarrassment. This is a reality check. It is not a reality check just for Trinidad and Tobago. It's a reality check for CARICOM. And it's a reality check that I, as an academic who studied this, is saying, it's about time. There are people in the CARICOM Secretariat who will tell you it is about time. Because as Trinidad and Tobago, as one of the largest contributors to the budget of CARICOM, they have the authority, we do have the authority, to say what needs to be said and correct the wrongs, because out there in the great world that exists, we need to keep up. I mean, that also applies to Cuba, and we haven't even got to that point. But Cuba is a diamond in the heart of the region with such rich human capital resources, development, innovations, but they're closed to the rest of us. I can't go to Cuba without going to a travel agent to buy a ticket. I can't go on the internet and look at the hotels that I prefer to stay at and the distance from one thing to the other because they are closed. If Cuba is closed to the rest of the world and only to its main allies, and it's sitting in the heart of the Western Hemisphere, which is known as the free world, that is an oxymoron. It is actually a contravention to what we believe in. So therefore, I have friends who work in Cuba and they tell you, listen, at some point in time of the day, the internet is going to drop. They're going to have electricity cut. The vehicles are the ones from 1950s and 60s. Modernity is missing. And that the people of Cuba need to see what the outside modern world looks like. And that is why people have left as well. So I'm going to put it like this. Cuba is now at a crossroads. This is the 21st century, late into the 21st century now, because 25 years has passed, quarter of a century has passed. They can't continue doing the same thing, the same way, and expect everybody to sit down and say, okay, there's talent there. There is expertise there. It can be utilized not just for Cuba and the region, for the rest of the world. They have hard decisions to make. And that's where we are in the world today. Hard decisions must be made. Tough talk. You must be able to see the opportunity, grab the opportunity, and ensure it sits on, it reaches you first. Yeah. Otherwise, somebody else will take it. We can't afford to be passive in a volatile world.
Well, Dr. Mohammed, there's just so much to unpack here. Unfortunately, we are out of time with this, but thank you so much for your contribution this morning. You know, one thing really stood out to me when she said, who Vex lost, but we'll definitely continue this conversation another time. And thanks for spending the morning with us on Trinidad and Tobago today. A little recap of the PM's address at CARICOM yesterday. The time now 20 minutes before 7 o'clock. Much more when we come back.
Talk City 91.1. Thought-provoking conversations, bold perspectives, voices you trust. Talk City 91.1. Bigger, bolder, and more powerful than ever before.
Yes, Talk City 91.1 FM.
A brand new era of talk radio is here. With voices you know, trust, and respect. Get ready for an all-new lineup of the very best in talk. Andy Williams, Lennox Smith, Stephen Reese, Mr. X, Derek Charbodi, Roland Stewart, Sharon Farfan, Sudath Prasad, Heavy Duty, Alex Asing, Karen Francisco, Cherry Lean Lewis, Short Pants, and more of the voices shaping the national conversation. From hard-hitting current affairs to real community issues, culture, politics, social development, and the stories that matter most to you. This is where Trinidad and Tobago comes to talk.
So I'll get right to on Talk City 91.1, where we're going to give you something new, something hot every day, Monday to Friday.
Listen on 91.1 FM and connect on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Talk City 91.1. Your city, your voice.
Attention viewers in Trinidad and Tobago. The Truth of God now airs on the TTT network every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. You won't want to miss the dynamic preaching of Pastor Jennings as he speaks from God's Holy Bible. The Truth of God, Sunday mornings at 7 a.m. on the TTT network.
The Marriage Confessional is back with an all-new episode. What role does money really play in marriage? This week, we're joining the Duncans to talk finances, because in a partnership, money matters. Please note our special airtimes for this week: Monday at 4:44 p.m. and Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Join the conversation and get real insight into love and financial understanding. Real talk for real marriages, only on TTT.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون.
This powerful verse from the Holy Quran invites us to embrace reflection, self-discipline, and spiritual renewal. Join us daily on TTT Limited for special Ramadan features, inspiring messages, heartfelt moments of devotion, and reflections that uplift our nation.
You are dearer to me than all the stars. So many wish but never reach. 'Cause when I'm falling and all the world seems dark, you help me find my peace. Oh, shun mi ba fishani. Oh, shun mi ba.
Well, bushfires remain a recurring challenge, especially during the dry season in Trinidad and Tobago, threatening homes and, as you can tell these days, affecting the air quality and placing serious pressure on emergency services. At the country's first bushfire conference held yesterday, the message was clear: prevention must be strengthened. Enforcement of existing laws must improve, and communities must play a more active role. The Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, Khadija Amin, emphasized that an aggressive and collaborative approach is needed, not just from government agencies, but from us, the citizens. So joining us this morning to continue that conversation are Mr. Jerry David, Senior Disaster Management Coordinator at the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, and Fire Officer Jude Rogers, representing the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
Bushfire, the hot topic. It definitely is. And yesterday we had the first Bushfire conference. So this is the first of its kind.
Yes, it was.
And I think it's something that we needed for a very long time. And it's a conversation that, we needed to have. So how would you address, Mr. David, the current bushfire situation across Trinidad and Tobago? Everywhere you go these days, you're seeing something burning, you're smelling it, you're seeing it in your homes, it's in your pots, your pans, it's all over your car. What do you think about the situation now?
Dry season is bushfire season. So that Trinidad and Tobago must understand this. So many years we have been having this problem of seeing the highways filled with smoke. I understand that yesterday, areas in the constituency of St. Augustine, where the Minister, Honorable Khadija Amin, is the MP, was actually shut down. Yes, because there was too much smoke.
Yeah.
And grasslands were burning.
Yeah.
Beside that, we have hillsides burning. I am hoping this year we don't have as many hillsides burn. Every year I am petrified to see the hills on fire.
Well, I'm just going to ask you if you think it's getting more severe. I think in recent years, do you think that it's getting better or worse?
I don't think it's getting better. I think the statistics will show when Fire Officer Rogers give you the statistics, you would see when it fluctuates, how it and he has the statistics. My concern is what the public is doing. And throughout the years, we have tried at the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. We go in schools and we talk about it. When we have training for community emergency response team volunteers, we talk about it and we try to get this kind of advocacy in the community. I don't think we have been doing enough. I think institutions like yours has a vital role to play. You have a lot of content, and perhaps it's time that TTT and the other television station take it up as a part of their responsibility in bringing this information to the public. You're burning the hillsides.
Yeah. Well, speaking of information, there is a bushfire season.
Yes, there is.
So, Officer Rogers, tell us that. When is exactly the bushfire season in TNT for viewers who probably didn't know that?
Okay, well, the bushfire season commences from the 1st of December of the previous year and runs all the way to June 30th of this year. And as you would know, that would coincide with our dry season.
Right.
All right. And, I have to always mention the weather as one of the contributory factors. So when we look at the level of dry spells that we have, we normally see a direct relationship with increase in temperature and also an increase or reduction in rainfall. And so we've been able to look at the statistics over the years, and together with data that we've gotten from the Meteorological Service of Trinidad and Tobago, we can then predict with some degree of accuracy when we would have a worst off dry season versus a dry season that may have more rain or precipitation. And so it helps to allow the fire service to make some decisions as to how we would focus our limited resources in the areas that need them the most.
Yeah. So before we get to the role of the fire service and preventing unwanted bushfires, Mr. David. I want to talk about bushfire laws and the fact that, the minister stressed the need for the stronger enforcement of the bushfire laws. A lot of people probably didn't even know that there were bushfire laws or how strong those laws are. Is the bigger issue the legislation itself, or you think it's just about compliance and accountability?
Officer Rogers could give you more information on the laws because he's seriously into that. My concern is that, has always been, we have laws, but we can't enforce them.
Yeah.
So that an individual will set fire. And I had that experience where I saw the person when I was at Diego Martin as the disaster coordinator. Yeah. I was doing my little patrol, and I'm seeing this fire starting very small. So I drove up on the side street, and I'm shouting out to the individuals in the yard, and the fire starts to blaze to the point where they couldn't control it. I called the fire service came, and it took them about an hour to extinguish that fire.
Yeah.
It meant that the fire service officers were supposed to go to the fire station, and when they got there, they have an occurrence book or a station diary, and they were supposed to put that information in the diary. Mm-hmm. I went and I got the municipal police to go to the scene, and they were looking for the extract now from the station diary of that incident. Mm-hmm. It wasn't there. So they could not proceed further.
Yeah.
But with respect to the laws and how they need to be strengthened, having discussion with Officer Rogers here, he will tell you it goes back to the 1960s, and then there's a need to strengthen these laws. So I would want to go over to him now.
You also spoke about municipal policing, and I know that coming out of the convention yesterday, they spoke about the role that municipal policing units and I think also the litter prevention unit will actually play in all of this. But I want to talk about the role of the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service in preventing unwanted bushfires. Can you tell us about that?
Okay, so during the period, we have the legislation, the Agricultural Fires Act empowers the fire service to generate what is called a fire committee within the counties, which is headed normally by a divisional fire officer, together with members of other different or other municipalities. They come together, and we would bring in what's called the fire guardians. The fire guardians are hired for that period from the 1st of December to June 30th. Their role and function is to act as that guardian that actually goes to your property when you come to the fire service for a permit, because you know that there's a permit system for the use of outdoor fires.
And how do you
during
get that permit?
So you come to the fire service, you visit any of the fire stations, and you are now able to apply for the permit. So you're a land developer, or you may be a farmer, or you may be a normal citizen who is seeking to clear land. You want to do some cleaning. You want to maintain your property. You are not allowed to burn your property without a permit that is issued by the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service. So when you visit, our fire guardians would then do an inspection of your property. They would bring that information back, and we provide for you a methodology by which you can actually burn the material within the confines of the law.
Would there be supervision for this?
Of course, there must be supervision. So the permit is not an everlasting permit. It provides you a specific period, let's say 1 week, depending on the magnitude of the land space that you're looking to burn. And it also is going to provide you a specific time when the wind factor is going to be very low. It also requires the owner of the property to employ persons who have the ability to fight fires in the event of that fire going beyond your borders. And it also allows for you to have fire protection on the property, and you must supervise that fire for its entirety. Yeah. And it's not an everlasting fire. You have to bring it to a close by a specific time.
Is there a fee for this permit?
The fee for the permit is $10 TT. It still goes back to the 1965 when the act was brought into being. And of course, over the years, we've had the fines in the act increase for those who go beyond what is the confines of the law, which speaks to 6 months imprisonment and a fine of $20,000. $100,000.
Yeah. So essentially, this is a crime to have a bushfire that is uncontrolled, or you don't have a permit for that.
And the challenge is bushfires can lead to house fires.
Yes.
Because if your property is in close proximity, and that brings the whole measure of prevention and fire prevention into play. We are employing citizens, and we speak directly to you, the citizens. You want to minimize any sort of shrubbery or trees, leaves in your guttering, anything that is in close proximity to your house. We want you to cut a fire trace around your property. That trace can be as wide as 5 feet in removing the vegetation around the fence line.
Explain what a fire trace.
So a fire trace acts as the removal of the fire material that can burn, or what is a combustible material. Of course, we have dry grass and shrubs, we have trees, we have leaves. When you eradicate that, or you remove that down to the dirt, when the fire reaches to that point, there is nothing to burn. And thus you are able to protect your property. So we ask in persons, housekeeping, cleaning of your property, and you don't wait for the dry season. This should begin in the November-December period and be maintained during the dry season. These are some of the mitigation methods that can be employed that has worked effectively. And even in the forest division, and I'm kudos to our counterparts in the Ministry of Agriculture, as they are also responsible for looking at the forest and visiting the forest and providing what we call a fire trace, which is about a 30 feet exclusion zone from the normal built-up urban areas into our forested areas. It provides a buffer and a delimitation of normal domestic fires going into your forested areas.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. David and Mr. Rogers, for joining us, talking about bushfires. Please be safe when you're doing that. Remember, go get a permit. It's very simple. It's just $10. And of course, you can get all the information that you need when you visit the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service. Well, the time now is 3 minutes before 7 o'clock. When we come back inside the 7 o'clock hour, we talk about new gas for Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, you know the drill. Much more on Trinidad and Tobago today.
Introducing the new Sun Mix Nut Bar. Available in 3 delicious flavors: granola raisin nut, almond cranberry crunch, and coconut almond crisp. All packed on a rich bed of dark chocolate.
Taste the good life, snack right. Taste the good life anytime. Good life, good life. Sun Mix.
Sunshine Snacks Sun Mix Nut Bar. Taste the good life.
Son, you need to do a better job looking after your bride.
800,000 women on this island. And you had to choose the one with the biggest rock on her finger.
Anita, I'm thinking about you whole day.
In what world can you and I ever be together?
I don't think you understand what you're doing. You don't have to marry Barrett.
You want me to fail, Papa? No. Go and do something for yourself now. This is my last chance. Tonight is about us.
In a world filled with uncertainty, there is still hope. When the weight feels heavy and the night feels long, remember, your story isn't over. God's promises are still true, His love is still strong, and your breakthrough is still coming. Join us for Messages of Hope, Words of Encouragement with Pastor Jesse, presented by Youth Fires. Hope lives here, only on TTT.
cannabis is one secret you should never keep.
Good morning, this is your TTT News Update. I'm Carrie Roberts. Making the news at this time. Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar has called out Caribbean CARICOM leaders for failing to stand in solidarity with Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago after facing threats from neighboring Venezuela in 2025. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the 50th regular meeting of CARICOM in St. Kitts and Nevis on Tuesday evening, she criticized CARICOM nations, noting that despite repeated threats to both nations from Venezuela, there was no voice from the Caribbean.
So how can it be when that regime was threatening violence to 2 CARICOM member states, there was no voice from the CARICOM? We were talking about a zone of peace. And in my respectful view, my country is not a zone of peace, and I'll tell you why. Because of the unreliability of the CARICOM in the above situation, TNT Guyana, we cannot bind ourselves to the same political ideologies.
She said Trinidad and Tobago will continue to defend its sovereignty as it sees best, adding that many Caribbean countries do not face the same challenges.
Thanks to President Trump, thanks to Secretary Rubio and the U.S. military, I say thank you today for standing firm against narco-trafficking, human and arms smuggling originated from Venezuela. That is what we were facing in Trinidad and Tobago. Maybe some of you other islands in the Caribbean, your nations do not have that level of illegal migration and, of course, the crime. So in 2024, crime was being treated as a public health gimmick. It was dubbed a public health issue. It's not a public health issue. Because of the crime, you're not alive to get any public health. You're dead. That's what the crime is like. So don't talk to me about a zone of peace.
In other news, Minister of Finance Devendra Nath Tanku described Trinidad and Tobago's recent removal from the European Union's list of non-cooperative jurisdictions for tax purposes as a proud moment in the nation's economic journey. Speaking in the Senate on Tuesday, Minister Tanku says the removal signals renewed international confidence in the country's financial governance framework.
Delisting strengthens Trinidad and Tobago's international standing and provides a more stable platform for business expansion, cross-border partnerships, and long-term economic growth. Decisive governance matters. When reforms are pursued with urgency, seriousness, and discipline, results follow.
Minister Tanku criticized the former administration, saying their failure to address key financial reforms left Trinidad and Tobago blacklisted for nearly a decade. He emphasized that being placed on the EU list carried significant consequences.
It hurt investor confidence. It made financial transactions with European unions and European institutions by business and financial institutions more difficult and costly. It increased due diligence requirements for domestic financial sector. It exposed us as a country to the risk of defensive measures by EU member states, and it damaged this country's international reputation.
On February 17, 2026, the Council of the European Union formally confirmed Trinidad and Tobago's removal from the list of non-cooperative jurisdictions for tax purposes. And in some sport now, a contingent of Trinidad and Tobago cyclists made a triumphant return from the Pan American Track Cycling Championships in Chile, where they secured an impressive 6-medal haul, 3 gold and 3 bronze. TTT News caught up with Nicholas Paul, who reflected on his outstanding performance at the championships. Paul captured gold in both the men's sprint and keirin finals and added a bronze medal in the men's team sprint, contributing significantly to TNT's successful campaign.
Firstly, I'll say thanks to God, because without him none of this would be possible. I mean, the team worked hard building up into the Pan American Championships, and to go out there and perform as well as we did, I think it was a great effort for the whole team. Well, I mean, the Pan American Championships is always a hard games for us. I mean, it was challenging coming up against Colombia, Venezuela and all of those guys. So I think it was a good effort on behalf of myself and the team as well.
That was your TTT News update. After the break, we return to Trinidad and Tobago Today.
Son, you need to do a better job looking after your bride.
800,000 women on this island. And you had to choose the one with the biggest rock on her finger.
Anita, I'm thinking about your whole day.
In what world can you and I ever be together?
I don't think you understand what you're doing. You don't have to marry Barrett.
You want me to fail, Papa? No. Go and do something for yourself now. This is my last chance. Tonight is about us.
Sazoli.
The Marriage Confessional is back with an all-new episode. What role does money really play in marriage? This week, we're joining the Duncans to talk finances, because in a partnership, money matters. Please note our special air times for this week: Monday at 4:44 p.m. and Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Join the conversation and get real insight into love and financial understanding. Real talk for real marriages, only on TTT.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون.
This powerful verse from the Holy Quran invites us to embrace reflection, self-discipline, and spiritual renewal. Join us daily on TTT Limited for special Ramadan features, inspiring messages, heartfelt moments of devotion, and reflections that uplift our nation.
Well, for all the stories that you see here and more, follow us at TTT Live online. If you have a story idea, a press release, or you simply want to collaborate with us, well, we'd love to hear from you. Contact us today at tttoday@ttt.co.tt, and you can be a part of the conversation that's shaping our nation. Trinidad and Tobago Today. You know it, news you can trust and all the stories that matter. Well, speaking of the stories that matter this morning, new gas for Trinidad and Tobago. Well, the National Gas Company has finalized 3 major upstream gas supply agreements with Perenco, securing production from the Teak, Salmon and Pui fields, as well as Blocks 2C and 3A. Now, the chairman, Gerald Ramdeen, says the agreements represent nearly 25% of NGC's aggregated gas supply and position the company to offer clearer pricing, volume and contract terms to downstream customers, including manufacturers Atlantic LNG and TN Tech. Well, this comes amid ongoing negotiations with light industrial customers following an increase in natural gas prices earlier this year. And this morning, we are privileged to be joined by the chairman of the National Gas Company, Mr. Gerald Ramdeen, to discuss what these developments mean for the energy sector and the wider economy. Good morning, Mr. Ramdeen.
Hey, good morning. Good morning to Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, it is good to have you here with us on this good Wednesday morning.
It's my pleasure.
So a lot happening in the field of gas for lack of a better word. The agreements with Perenco cover a significant portion of NGC's supply. Mr. Amin, how critical were these deals to stabilizing Trinidad and Tobago's gas outlook in the short to medium term?
The signing of these agreements with Perenco was a milestone achievement for the National Gas Company. But I think to understand where the importance of those agreements, it is important to put it in context. We at the National Gas Company assumed the role of a new board in July of 2025 after the general elections of 2025 in April. And what we found at the National Gas Company is that the administration that was in charge of the country and the NGC before April 28 achieved two things in the last 10 years. They managed to bankrupt the country and they managed to wreck the energy sector. And the NGC was not spared as a casualty from that. And I think it's important in the signing of these agreements to understand the background that we were faced with when we had to negotiate these contracts. NGC is a company that has a $42 billion asset base. Over the last 10 years, the return on those assets was 3%. Those are the facts. The return on equity was 3.5%. In the last 10 years, the debt for TNTech to the NGC was allowed to balloon to over $10 billion. And in the last 5 years, the NGC made two losses. A company that buys and sells gas made two losses. In 2020, those losses exceeded $2 billion. And in 2023, it was around $1.3 billion. And that is what we were faced with when we assumed the role to manage this most important asset for the country. The Honorable Prime Minister, with the confidence that she placed in myself to lead a team that was very skilled, experienced, and qualified in the energy sector, we went to work immediately. And one of the first things that we set out to do was to make whole our supply of gas from the upstream. Because it is only when we have a guaranteed supply of gas and line of sight on the upstream that we are able to provide that gas to our downstream manufacturers, our light industrial customers, supply our allocation of gas into Atlantic LNG, and supply our power producers. And it is in that context that we entered into negotiations with Perenco. Perenco is a very important partner. They are a JV partner, and they're an important company for the development of our hydrocarbon resources for the simple reason that they are an expert. They have the expertise to explore aging assets. And many of our reservoirs, especially in the teak salmon and pui fields, are really some of our oldest assets and our most mature reservoirs. And they have been able to continue production from those aging assets and bring that gas to the National Gas Company. And we also were successful in negotiating the 2C, 3A blocks, which they have a history to that as well. But in all, the prices, the term, and the volumes that we were able to negotiate with the leadership of the board, the acting president, Mr. Edmund Subrayan, and our commercial team, we are very proud of this achievement because we were able to negotiate terms that were favorable to the NGC, terms that allowed us to provide good opportunities for the downstream sector, and we were able to do that in a record period of time.
Yeah, a change in the negotiating position, right? So earlier this year, gas prices for light industrial customers, I believe, moved from $3 to $5.30, am I correct, per MMBTU. Can you walk us through the economic realities that made that adjustment absolutely unavoidable?
It was an incredible situation to see what was transpiring with our light industrial customers and the NGC. I'll take one example to demonstrate what we were faced with. TCL, we categorize them as a light industrial customer, but they're not really a light industrial customer because they use between 12 to 15 million standard cubic feet of gas per day. When we started these negotiations with light industrial customers, we were told by TCL they had an agreement with the previous administration to increase the price of natural gas to TCL by 4%. By 4%. And we were wondering, how is this possible? TCL, I read in a newspaper report early this morning, and from the records at the NGC, has increased the price of cement to the citizens of this country 7 times in the last 4 years. 7 times. The accumulated increase in the price of cement is 40%. And they wanted an increase in the price of gas. They were prepared not to pay more than 4%. So the citizens of this country were faced with a 40% increase in the price of cement, and TCL were not prepared to pay more than 4%. One of the first things that the board that I lead did when we entered into office in July of last year, and like I said, it's parlor economics. We made a decision at the board level that we could not sell gas below our acquisition cost. How the former Minister of Energy and the former administration were able to justify doing that, selling gas below acquisition, I can't explain. But we were not prepared to sell gas below acquisition costs, because the result of that is that NGC will make a loss. And we are on the what we were facing were 2 losses in the billions of dollars. And we took a decision that we will offer gas at a fixed term for a fixed price, and they were able to get their volumes for 3 years. We gave them line of sight for 3 years. And we gave them the option to take that contract for a year, and we incrementally decided that we will increase the price over that 3-year period. And we had to do that because the pipeline system that NGC operates, which is our greatest asset, requires maintenance and upkeep. NGC requires a tariff to do the business. And that takes me to a very important point. The administrative cost to run the NGC when we entered into office was $1.7 billion. 1.7 billion TT dollars to run the NGC per year. And within the 8 months that we have been in office, this new board, we've cut that expense by $800 million. And that is why we've taken these hard decisions now that will resound to the benefit of the citizens of this country, because at the end of the day, we must understand the NGC's sole shareholder is Corporation Sole, which translates into the citizens of the country, this country. The citizens, NGC belongs to the citizens of this country. And we are given the responsibility to manage that asset for the best interests of the citizens of this country and to provide a fair return. And we had to take those hard decisions because it is not fair that in this country, the manufacturing sector enjoys cheap gas and they enjoy subsidized electricity. That has caused the power producers and TNTech to have that bill of $10 billion. And there is, at some point in time, I mean, I can say one of the greatest achievements that we have done as a new board, together working with the Honorable Minister of Public Utilities, is that we've managed to take control of this debt to TNTech and to be able to find a way in which we can remove that debt from the books of the NGC. And that is one of our greatest achievements. It was left there untouched to exceed $10 billion. And for the first time in 10 years, it's being addressed.
Mr. Amni, I want to shift to a burning topic, that renewed talk of cross-border gas opportunities, particularly involving Venezuela. So what role do you envision that NGC can play in negotiations and projects in this regard?
Well, what I can say is this. Trinidad and Tobago is strategically positioned at this point in time. We sit on the edge of an energy revolution unlike anything that we've ever seen before. And that has only been as a result of the very strategic, courageous decisions that have been taken by the Honorable Prime Minister. Against criticism and against all odds, the Honorable Prime Minister stood with the United States. And as a result of those decisions, today and into the near future, we will see the benefits of those decisions. I cannot explain in words right now the interest in the energy sector, not only within the region, but internationally, because I can say that there can be no exploration of cross-border gas and gas from Venezuela without Trinidad. Trinidad is an essential component because of the infrastructure that we have on the Point Lisas estate, because of the assets that belong to the NGC, and the positioning of the NGC in monetizing hydrocarbons. At the end of the day, we are on the cusp of an energy revolution, the center of which will be the NGC.
Mr. Amin, how soon do you expect the downstream contract negotiations to conclude, and what do you think successful closure would look like for NGC?
We have now made whole our contracts on the upstream, and from last week into this week, throughout the months of January and into February, we have been speaking with our downstream customers, and we've had very favorable conversations with them. We expect that during the next 2 weeks, we would be able to close those contracts with all our downstream petrochemical customers, and that too will be a great achievement. It has been challenging, and it has been challenging for one reason. Time and time again, we see the former minister speaking about how many contracts and how many projects have been closed while they were in office during the last 10 years. I want to say this. As the chairman of the National Gas Company, I have not seen a single contract within the last 10 years that has been signed on behalf of the NGC or the government that has been in the best interest of the people of this country. Time and time again, multinationals come into this country and they explore hydrocarbons. And the former minister should make a clip like he's accustomed to doing and tell the country how much gas all of these projects that have come to market has brought to the downstream. He's quick to complain about the fact that contracts on the downstream have not been closed. But he wouldn't tell the country, out of all the projects that were negotiated, what did they negotiate for the downstream? BP just finished a contract called SIP, brought it to market, 250 million standard cubic feet of gas, and not a molecule of that gas is coming to the downstream. It is left to us at the NGC now to carve out portions and tranches of gas to make available, claw it back out of these contracts to make that gas available to the downstream. The downstream customers are very important to us, and we are doing our best at the NGC to ensure that we fulfill their daily contractual obligation so that we can keep every single plant on the Point Lisas estate running. There are plants on the Point Lisas estate that have been down for the last 10 years that are now starting up because of the decisions that we've taken at the NGC, and we are very proud of that achievement, and we hope that with the new gas that will come on board as a result of the cross-border developments and the decisions that we've taken, we expect that every plant on the Point Lisas estate will be up and running.
Well, added to that is also the goal to double supply, I believe, to the light industrial customers. I think you're moving from 10, hopefully, to 20 million standard cubic feet per day. So what infrastructure operational adjustments are required to make that happen, Mr. Amdeen?
One of the things out of the conversations and the closing of the LIC contracts that we realized when we spoke to the manufacturing sector is that there are many small manufacturers that want to come onto the NGC network. And as a result of conversations that we've had with them and the engagements that we've had, we've listened carefully to our manufacturing sector. And we have decided as a board, to, as you said, to double the allocation and the volume of gas that is available to our light industrial customers and the manufacturing sector. And we've done that for the simple reason that we want to make this gas available to them because we understand they too operate in a challenging environment. With the new tariffs that have been imposed by the United States, we have to try our best at the NGC to make favorable that manufacturing environment. And one of the things that we've done is that we have increased that supply and we have invited the manufacturing sector to come onto our network. We are prepared to work with them to put the infrastructure in place to help with the expenses to come onto the network and make that very cheap, reliable, and environmentally friendly fuel available to them.
Well, before we close, you've spoken about excitement in the energy sector, and you've also said that TNT is on the cusp of regional energy leadership. What measurable benchmarks should we look forward to over the next, let's just say, year or 18 months?
I think that the one thing that I look forward to is the cross-border and Venezuela gas developments. I think the one thing that this country can be assured about is that what took place over the last 10 years will not happen within this period. One thing that we have to do as a country is to ensure that we learn from the mistakes of the past. We will, I am confident, enter into a new energy revolution within this year, going into next year, within the next few years and into 2020-30s. And we have to be sure that the resources that we monetize, the assets that we use, the income that we earn, that we don't waste that income like we did in years past. We put aside something for the future and we invest in our energy sector and in our people. And the one thing that I think the citizens of this country can be assured about is that the country is in the right hands to make the right decisions, to ensure that the future of this country, on which we hold on trust for our children, is in the right hands. And we can assure the country that the leadership led by the Honorable Prime Minister will take every step to guarantee the future for the children of our country.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jalaramdin, for joining us on Trinidad and Tobago today. The way forward for NGC, new gas agreement, stability, the road ahead, what can we look forward to? That is the chairman of NGC, Mr. Jalaramdin, joining us on set this morning on Trinidad and Tobago today. 7:26. When we come back, the conversation continues. Is Saharan dust bothering you these days? Well, it's definitely something, and we're dealing with that. And of course, UWI Open Day is coming up. We talk all about that.
Attention viewers in Trinidad and Tobago. The Truth of God now airs on the TTT network every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. You won't want to miss the dynamic preaching and teaching of Pastor Jennings as he speaks from God's Holy Bible.
Believe what God says.
The Truth of God, every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. on Trinidad and Tobago television. You can also watch The Truth of God 24/7 at thetog.tv.
In a world filled with uncertainty, there is still hope. When the weight feels heavy and the night feels long, remember, your story isn't over. God's promises are still true, His love is still strong, and your breakthrough is still coming. Join us for Messages of Hope, Words of Encouragement with Pastor Jesse, presented by Youth Fires. Hope lives here, only on TTT.
When it matters, we're there, reporting the news as it happens, because your world can't wait. TTT News, nightly at 7. TTT News, committed, accurate, relevant.
You are dearer to me than all the stars. So many wish but never reach. 'Cause when I'm falling and all the world seems dark, you help me find my peace. Oh, shun mi ba fishani. Oh, shun mi ba yeah. Oh, shun mi ba fishani. Arubita, yeah, 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 yeah,
Prospective students and their families are invited to the UWI St. Augustine Open Day 2026, the perfect opportunity to explore over 200 programs, speak directly with lecturers and academic advisors, and of course receive one-on-one guidance to help make those informed decisions about your future. Takes me back to my days. Open Day was always so much fun, and it really gave you an opportunity to get an insight into UWI and exactly what you need to expect. Well, joining us via Zoom this morning to tell us about Open Day 2026 is Dr. Ronald Rupnerine, the Deputy Dean for Outreach and Internalization and Senior within the Faculty of Food and Agriculture and the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus. Good morning, Dr. Rupnerine.
Good morning, and good morning to all the viewers and all those tuned in.
How are you this morning?
I am fine. I'm excited to share what we have to offer for Open Day 2026.
Yeah, I was just saying that it brings back so many memories of my experience with Open Day, and it was always so much fun, lots of goodies and all of that. So we'll talk about that this morning. Why, Dr. Rupnerine, are the UWI Open Days such an important experience for students and those ready to apply, as well as those who, maybe still exploring their options?
Well, I think you somehow sort of answered the question in a sense, because students in 2026 are faced with so many different options, so many different choices, not just within the Caribbean, but globally, because of the whole online sort of digital era that we live in. And it's important for us to understand what is on offer at our local universities, and the fact that our programs are tailored to suit Caribbean SIDS and the needs of persons in the part of the real world that we live in. It's important also for you to have one-on-one exposure to lecturers, to some of the facilities that we have to offer. For instance, you will have our campus tours to labs. We will also have activities that will involve demonstrations across the different faculties that you can see hands-on how the theoretical aspects of what we do can be applied. In addition to that, I think it's very important for students to explore all the options that are available. It is a very tough job market right now, globally and in the Caribbean as well. And you have to make informed decisions. You have to make decisions based on where you think your career or project your career to be. And the best way to do that is to explore what options are available and have discussions with persons who would be perhaps a little more informed in the particular disciplines than you may be. So I think it's really crucial that students who are potential students who are interested in tertiary education visit and have this one-on-one interaction and see hands-on what we have to offer.
Well, Dr. Rupnerine, this can actually start from as early as Form 5 or Form 6, right? So students who are choosing subjects, can they attend Open Days? And how can attending early actually shape their decisions and say, maybe I want to study this, so I want to do that. So is it wise for them to attend even Form 5, Form 6?
Of course. I think even before that, because your career path is something that you if you remember when you were in secondary school, many times we're not quite sure exactly where we want to go. And having that exposure and seeing what is available and having discussions and perhaps meeting with existing students at the university can help you to tailor where you want your career path to follow. So it's very good for persons, even if you're not entering university in the next academic year, to just be exposed so that you can make the right choices, so that you could choose the right courses or subjects at CXC, etc., and therefore make your career journey a little more, structured, where you're not in a position where you do particular subjects at A-levels or CSEC, and then you're not sure where that will end you, where you will end up with that.
Dr. Rupnerine, it can be a little overwhelming. I mean, there's 200 accredited programs available, and you really have to make that choice. You have to decide. But what would you say to students? How do you make the most of Open Day? And how do you do this to find the right academic fit for you?
Well, as you rightfully said, we have 8 faculties and over 200 accredited programs. And that runs across both undergraduate, we have also certificates, diplomas, and we also have like postgraduate programs, MPhils, PhDs, etc. So Open Day is not just limited to persons who are coming in at undergrad level, it's also for persons who may be exploring postgraduate education as well. I think it's something where you have to examine, as I mentioned, the workforce, examine where you want to be in life, and then have discussions with the specific faculties or coordinators of the specific programs that you may have interest in. And based on those discussions, those interactions, you may be in a better place to make a more informed decision going forward. And I could understand how overwhelming it is because, 20 years ago, you did not have all these choices. And while we speak about over 200 programs at UWI, there are also additional offerings from other universities locally, online, etc., which even makes it more competitive. But what I can say is that the University of the West Indies is in the top 3% globally. We are consistently ranked as the #1 university in Latin America and the Caribbean, or one of the top universities in that region, which speaks volumes about what we have to offer and the quality of education that you receive from the University of the West Indies. Yeah, so I think once you are exposed to these particular programs, you have the discussions with the respective faculties, etc., you are better positioned to make an informed decision rather than being in a space where you are, kind of thinking in a silo and not quite sure what is to be offered and what are the opportunities from the various programs when you complete.
So let's just say a student has already decided what program they want to pursue, and they're ready to apply. Can they do this during the open days, and what can they do, or what can they bring or walk with to ensure that there is a smooth application process? I don't know if the requirements changed from back in my day.
Well, I'm not sure how far back your day was, but in my time, everything was physical. You had to walk with a piece of paper and go from faculty to faculty. And different offices, etc. However, now we have digitized everything, so there's an online application portal. You just click on it. The information would be shared across, throughout the open day period and on the open day as well, and also on our websites. And all they really have to do is click on it and follow the instructions. It's very, very easy. It's not a complicated process like it used to be, and it offers students a very, convenient way of applying to university rather than having this physical pieces of paper where you have to go from office to office and look for persons to sign off, etc. It is much more efficient than it used to be and a very, very easy process.
Dr. Rubner, we had Dr. Trudy Hoyt, I believe, from UWI as well, joining us earlier this week. And she made a statement that really stayed with me, and it is absolutely true, which brings me to my next question. She said that professional development itself can be expensive. So for families who may be concerned about affordability, scholarships, bursaries, or even payment plans, are those available to support students financially?
Of course, the university itself, right, separate and apart from GATE and support from the government, has quite a number of bursaries that are available to students. There's also payment plans. We usually, I don't want to go back to your time and my time, but back in those days, you had to pay your fees up front. Now you can pay in tranches. You can pay your fees in 3 tranches now through a payment plan. And apart from that, as I mentioned before, I think there are over 250 bursaries that are available to university students from the university itself.
Yeah, I want to come to your faculty for a little bit. For students who are interested in agriculture, food, sustainability, or even agribusiness, what makes the Faculty of Food and Agriculture stand out at the UWI St. Augustine?
Well, first and foremost, I think a lot of people don't know that the University of the West Indies actually started from something called ICTA, which was the Imperial College of Tropical Agriculture in 1921. And what that means is that every other faculty or every other discipline that emanated from that was sort of birthed by the start of the university through the Imperial College in 1921. UWI itself, St. Augustine, was established, I think, in 1960. And the Faculty of Food and Agriculture is the only Faculty of Food and Agriculture across all the UE campuses in the region. And the expertise that reside within this faculty is far, far ranging and perhaps misunderstood by many. Many people think that in the Faculty of Food and Agriculture, you probably, you plant some tomatoes and you look after some sheep or something like that. But it's far more complex than that. In addition to that, we have multiple departments. We have agricultural extension, as you would have mentioned. We also have the Department of Geography. And we have programs that range from environmental management all the way to agribusiness and agriculture and human nutrition and dietetics. It's a very diverse faculty that consists of expertise across the agri-environmental spectrum. And I must emphasize that the Faculty of Food and Agriculture is not just agriculture in the pure sense of the word, perhaps in a misunderstood sense of the word, because agriculture and the environment is closely linked. What you do in agriculture affects the environment and vice versa. So our programs are designed to, capture that complementary nature of environmental issues versus agricultural issues and marry all of them together and give our students exposure to a wide range of different expertise.
Yeah. Well, Doc, before we close, can you just remind the public about the upcoming open days for those who may want to attend, prospective students, or even Forms 5 and 6 as well, who may want to check this out?
Sure. I think it is important for me to mention that Open Day is not just about coming and seeing what programs we have to offer. As I mentioned, I think at the start, we have campus tours. We will also have financial information sessions for both parents and students. So we'll speak about tuition, scholarships, gate, payment plans. There will also be games and activities. So you're welcome to bring along even your younger kids who may not really be interested in tertiary education at this point in time, but will have the experience of seeing what university life could be like. So there'll be interactive booths, hands-on demonstrations, and also fun learning experiences for all ages. There will also be faculty advising one-on-one, so you can have a one-on-one conversation with the specific faculties that you may be interested in. And, the Library and Learning Resource Center tours as well, where persons will actually be able to, explore some of the options that will be accessible to them once they become students. So I just want to emphasize that it is not just about UE advertising their programs, but also about, exposing persons to what tertiary life could be at the University of the West Indies. And it is very important for us to recognize that going forward, that education is critical to our development. It is also critical for our progress as a society. And the University of the West Indies is committed to continuing to provide the high quality education that we have consistently done over the past 65 years or so.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ronald Rubnarine, for joining us. UE Open Day, we're looking forward to that. Maybe I should go back, and see how that goes. And the goodies were great, I have to admit. The goodies were always the best part for me. But of course, those programs take full advantage of that and begin your academic journey. Thank you, Dr. Rubnarine, for joining us. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.
All right, 7:43 on a beautiful Wednesday. Saharan dust has been really, really, really horrible. I mean, you wake up on mornings and you feel it in your throat, you feel it in your eyes, your ears. Well, if you are struggling, when we come back, we talk a little bit about that, what's happening and what we can look forward to.
Struggling with heart health or frequent migraines? Discover the simple steps to reclaim your energy and vitality.
We're diving into a topic that affects about 422 million people around the world: diabetes.
Tune into Wellness Unlocked, the series that delivers expert advice, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you take control of your health and well-being. Your health matters. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on TTT and take the first step toward better health.
It's that time of the year again, my friends. You can feel it in the air. Football,
Football. It's back. Everyone's locked in. This is Richard Torpedo Thompson, and my Trinidad and Tobago people. I'll stay this straight. Fans make the game. Cheers, chants, passion. That's the heartbeat of football. There's only one 12th man that really brings the energy. That's Andre Errol Batiste on TTT. Every Thursday on TTT. Don't miss it.
I am your mother,
aunt, grandmother,
guardian, friend, and I promise to protect you in all situations because someone has hurt you, violated you, harmed you,
abused you, and you were brave enough to tell me. You trusted me. You came to me for help,
to defend,
for support,
to protect you.
No amount of money or bribes, favors, or gifts will stop me.
You are most important to me.
You are worth more to me than any material thing.
I will do all in my power,
in my heart,
to make sure that you are taken care of and that justice is served and you thrive. Together, my daughter,
my son,
my child, we will live and love. I will protect you.
Break the silence. Report all cases of child sexual abuse.
Your world moves fast, so do we. TTT News brings you the people, events, and issues that matter most. Stay informed, stay ahead. TTT News, every night at 7. TTT News, committed, accurate, relevant.
The Marriage Confessional is back with an all-new episode. What role does money really play in marriage? This week, we're joining the Duncans to talk finances, because in a partnership, money matters. Please note our special airtimes for this week: Monday at 4:44 p.m. and Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Join the conversation and get real insight into love and financial understanding. Real talk for real marriages, only on TTT.
Few days, many of us across Trinidad and Tobago have noticed the hazy skies, reduced visibility, especially when you're driving along the highway, even that scratchy feeling in your throats or your eyes. While a surge of Saharan dust has moved into the region, and clearly it is not leaving, affecting air quality and raising concerns, particularly for vulnerable groups. But what exactly is happening in the atmosphere? How long will these conditions last, you're wondering? And what should we be mindful of in the days ahead? Well, joining us this morning to help break it all down is meteorologist Mr. Gary Benjamin. Mr. Benjamin, thank you for being with us this morning.
Good morning. Good morning to you, to all your viewers and listeners. A pleasant good morning.
Well, to begin, can you tell us exactly where the Saharan dust is coming from? Where does it originate? And the atmospheric mechanisms that will allow it to really travel thousands of kilometers across the Atlantic to reach the Caribbean? Everybody's asking, is there any, dust left in the Saharan desert, or is it just in Trinidad?
Well, first of all, the dust comes, as it's named, the Saharan dust. It comes directly from the Saharan dust. It's the real Saharan dust. And sand has always been produced in the desert. There's a lot of sand in the desert. And what happens is that when there are any wind events over the Sahara, such as sandstorms, dust storms, it would launch the dust into the atmosphere, and therefore the dust would take the transportation of the jet winds that are coming across from east to west towards North South America and the Caribbean area. So this dust is the actual Saharan dust that is launched into the air from the low levels into the middle levels, couple thousand feet into the atmosphere, and it takes this transport across. Depending on the size of the particles, a lot would precipitate out, but the lighter particles and according to the strength of the wind itself, would eventually reach us. And when the wind is strong or there is sufficient dust, it would reach us in different quantities as now, which we have significant quantities of dust in the atmosphere.
And how would you characterize the current dust concentrations affecting us in TNT? Do you think, well, in your professional opinion, are they within the normal seasonal range, or are we seeing above average levels? Because we feel things differently as a regular person, not knowing exactly the science behind it. But is this normal, or is it above average for this time of year?
Well, the thing is, we talk in terms of dust days. For this time of the year, as far as the amount of dust days are concerned, it is normal because at the beginning of the year, we begin to see the dust events ramp up, and it will continue so until around August, September, when there's a steep drop-off till the end of the year. Now, the dust is always with us in different quantities. We have mild quantities, moderate quantities, and high quantities. When the dust is between moderate to high or high quantities, it becomes significant, and therefore we recognize it as being significant. So the amount of dust bouts or dust events right now is normal, but we have from year to year and season to season variations in the quantities, in the extent of the dust. I have seen dust much more thicker than this. I've seen dust over the years reduce the visibility to around 2 kilometers or less. This one at its lowest or most concentrated would have reduced the visibility to about 5 kilometers for the most, which was around Sunday into Monday. Right now, we're looking at mostly moderate quantities. And as the week progresses, we may have a couple hours of moderate to high quantities around Thursday and Friday, at least for this event. And after that, it will eventually drop off. But having said that, that is for this particular event. Having said that, we are now looking at, for now until the next few months, consistent bouts or plumes of dust that will be coming across in different quantities and will be affecting us at different levels.
Mr. Benjamin, which groups should be most concerned about the reduced air quality, and why are individuals with respiratory or cardiovascular conditions particularly vulnerable?
Okay, the groups, first of all, the very young children, as always, with any type of ailment. We look, the medical personnel usually, as far as I know, look at the very young persons and the elderly, and there are also people within average ages who would be suffering from certain types of respiratory ailments. The dust is actually particles of different sizes that could get into your lungs when you breathe it. The person, normal healthy person, could be able at times to withstand it to a certain extent, but those who have respiratory ailment or weaker respiratory systems would be able to withstand it to a lesser extent. So the medical people have to be always careful and watching on the youngest and the eldest, but not forgetting those who might be affected. You may not even know you have a respiratory ailment until it does start to affect you. And then when you see a medical personnel, they would be the people who would determine exactly what is going on with your breathing apparatus.
So we often, focus on the health challenges, of course. That's the first thing we always talk about. But are there any environmental or ecological impacts of this dust, the Saharan dust, reaching our region?
One of the positive impacts is that it tends to have it is nutrient laden as far as forests are concerned, a lot of phosphorus and different types of chemicals in it that would keep the Amazon lush and green when it is deposited over the Amazon. So there is in fact a link between the Sahara and the Amazon in that way. So the Saharan dust, dry and arid, would come to the Amazon and help the Amazon to be lush and flourish. That is one of the environmental impacts that I know of. The other one negative is that it would reduce visibility. And while we may say the visibility is reduced to 5 kilometers, 3 kilometers or so, and we may think that is enough to see. it is not really always clear in the atmosphere. So one has to take precautions, especially when driving, and especially for aircraft that use visual flight rules, because I believe the aerodrome minima is around 5 kilometers. So it would shut down certain types of aircraft operations or aviation operations when it gets real thick. So there are negatives, and as I said, the positive is the nutrient-laden dust. Everything in the atmosphere has some sort of connection, and therefore we could connect the Sahara to the Amazon.
Well, finally, Mr. Benjamin, looking ahead, do we expect Saharan dust events to become more frequent over, the coming months or even years?
Yes. Well, let's just forget about the years for now. But when we talk in terms of the seasonal dust events, as January starts and the sun apparently migrates into the northern hemisphere, all the systems in the northern hemisphere begin to ramp up, and one of them is the events of dust leaving the Saharan area and coming across to us. So yes, this is the beginning as far as this year is concerned. This is the beginning of the Saharan dust events. It would go to a peak sometime around August or September, which is on average is 44 dust days for that time, or August or September, and it would steeply drop off till the end of the year. And every year, that is the pattern. It may not always follow the pattern exactly, but that is the average climatological pattern that we have recorded over the years as far as climatology is concerned.
All right. Thank you so much, meteorologist Mr. Gary Benjamin, for joining us this morning, talking all about Saharan dust and, take the necessary precautions. All right. Well, just a few minutes left before 8 o'clock. That means Carrie's up next with the major network news. It's almost time for me to say goodbye. Just want to say a special thanks to the crew always working behind the scenes to ensure that we have a very successful and enjoyable Trinidad and Tobago today. So much love to my crew. Always an amazing time. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock where we do this all over again. Until then, have a beautiful Wednesday, 25th February, Trinidad and Tobago. Bye-bye.
Son, you need to do a better job looking after your bride.
800,000 women on this island. And you had to choose the one with the biggest rock on her finger.
Anita, I'm thinking about you whole day.
In what world can you and I ever be together?
I don't think you understand what you're doing. You don't have to marry Barrett.
You want me to fail, Papa? No. Go and do something for yourself now. This is my last chance. Tonight is about us.
In a world filled with uncertainty, there is still hope. When the weight feels heavy and the night feels long, remember, your story isn't over. God's promises are still true, His love is still strong, and your breakthrough is still coming. Join us for Messages of Hope, Words of Encouragement with Pastor Jesse, presented by Youth Fires. Hope lives here, only on TTT.
The Marriage Confessional is back with an all-new episode. What role does money really play in marriage? This week, we're joining the Duncans to talk finances, because in a partnership, money matters. Please note our special airtimes for this week: Monday at 4:44 p.m. and Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Join the conversation and get real insight into love and financial understanding. Real talk for real marriages, only on TTT.
Your news, anytime, anywhere. Join us nightly at 7. TTT News. Committed, accurate, relevant.
Good morning. This is your TTT News Update. I'm Carrie Roberts. Making the news at this time. CARICOM cannot function as an organization for sitting governments, while opposition voices and ordinary citizens are denied recourse. This according to Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar as she chastised the regional body for failing to acknowledge or respond to a letter she wrote to the Secretariat in 2022 as the opposition leader. She recalled that it stemmed from the October 2022 kidnapping of a Trinidadian citizen from another CARICOM state. Speaking at CARICOM's 50th meeting of the heads of government in St. Kitts and Nevis, the Prime Minister said the unresolved abduction remains a stain on the region's integrity and a signal that CARICOM may be prioritizing governments over the people it serves.
So I say to CARICOM, that response, non-response, it may be the result of poor management, lax accountability, or most concerning, that one ceases to be recognized by the Secretariat as a member citizen of CARICOM when not in government. And so I want to reaffirm that the CARICOM should be the voice for all, not just for the governing parties, not just for those in the Caribbean who form government parties. And so I'd ask you, we have to chart a way forward.
The Prime Minister also noted that alleged cross-border political meddling has created deep fractures within the community.
Cannot then expect that when we come together that we must hug up each other. When in the last election gone, you sent your missives, you sent your people from your party to openly campaign against another political party. I'm sorry I have to share this, but it hurt me a lot when I saw what transpired within the last set of elections in the CARICOM. So CARICOM governments, if we are to hug up each other and cooperate, it cannot be that last week you sent your person down to St. Vincent or to Jamaica or to wherever, or to Guyana. You sent your political persons, not technocrats. You sent them down to campaign.
And one analyst examining the PM's contributions in St. Kitts and Nevis says in a nutshell, Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar is calling for reform within CARICOM. He says her words are urging greater accountability and responsiveness from the regional body. He also says the conversation was long overdue. Speaking on Trinidad and Tobago Today, political scientist Dr. Shane Mohammed said the Prime Minister's remarks highlighted a growing need for institutional reform within CARICOM. He pointed to concerns about communication and responsiveness at the Secretariat level.
There's also that concern that you raised with regard to the need for CARICOM to become more accountable, more agile, and she went back to that specific letter of correspondence that she would have written to the SG, the Secretary General of CARICOM, and gotten absolutely no response, which is not what CARICOM is.
Dr. Mohammed said the issue extends beyond a single unanswered letter. He noted the mechanisms once designed to strengthen dialogue across the region have since fallen away, weakening parliamentary engagement within the community.
But the time has come for CARICOM as an institution to sit down and look at itself and make the reforms that is needed to meet the international challenges that we're facing in 2026 and beyond.
Dr. Mohammed said as one of CARICOM's largest financial contributors, Trinidad and Tobago has both the standing and the responsibility to press for change. The Prime Minister has also reaffirmed the country's commitment to regional unity, even as she calls for what she describes as necessary reform. And in some sport now, the West Indies women are looking to bounce back from two close defeats when they take on Sri Lanka in the third and final CG United One-Day International at the National Cricket Stadium in Grenada. Veteran all-rounder Stephanie Taylor says the team's batting has been the main area of concern heading into the series finale. She points out that while batters have been getting starts, they have not been able to see the innings through, something the coaching staff has been emphasizing, particularly for the top five.
Well, I think more in the batting.
We had starts from batters, just never really get to finish the game. And I know coach always say, like, once you get a start, especially the top 5 batters, if you do get a start, you try and, finish the game.
And that was your TTT News Update. I'm Carrie Roberts. From all of us here, have a great day.
This is TTT. Live for local.
The Lord can use you right where you are. And you need to understand this, that as it was in the book of Samuel, when David was anointed to be king, that he was about his own business. He was doing what he was asked of. He was out in the field where his father asked him to be. And there's an important understanding in being exactly where God has called you to be, in a place of obedience. God could use you right where you are, in your workplace. Hi, I'm Pastor Jesse, and I'm back here for a word of encouragement for you. Even as you are on your way home, or you're on your way to work, you're on your way to school, you're on your way back home, God could use you right where you are. He used David because, you see, David, he was in a position ready. The Bible says to be ready in season and out of season. And understand, there will always be the naysayers, there will always be the doubters, there will always be the people questioning, why you? But despite it all, have the faith, have the strength, have the understanding of the testimonies that have come before, where you have fought lions, where you have fought bears, and nobody else saw, nobody else knew. But God is using you in the position you are in to bring hope, to bring love, to bring strength, to bring healing and deliverance and salvation to those around you. God could use you right where you are right now. Because a time will come when a giant needs to be slain, and no one else can do it. They are using weapons that are carnal, but God has put you in such a position where you've been ready. And the time comes for a boldness, and you're going to step up, and you're going to take that stone, and you're going to launch it towards that enemy, and you're going to bring down that giant. Because you've been ready, and God is going to use you right where you are. He's not going to use somebody else. Yeah, he's going to use you. So be in position and be ready.
Son, you need to do a better job looking after your bride.
800,000 women on this island. And you had to choose the one with the biggest rock on her finger.
Anita, I'm thinking about you whole day.
In what world can you and I ever be together? I don't think you understand what you're doing. You don't have to marry Barrett. You want me to fail, Papa?
No. Go and do something for yourself now. This is my last chance. Tonight is about us.
Basoli.
This is TTT. Live for local.
People often picture Lu Xun, the renowned modern Chinese writer, as a literary warrior wielding his pen like a spear. However, hidden within his extensive body of essays is a profound sense